Today, I have to tell you, there's grilled chicken sandwiches, barbecue riblet sandwiches, beef and lamb heroes, chicken pita, soft pretzels, and fresh, out of the oven, personal pizzas. And just to remind you, keep yourself hydrated with water and other beverages. We've got refreshing Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite Powerade, back in the ice-cold beer seltzer tents. We've got Budweiser, we've got all kinds of good things for you today. So be sure to check out the tents, check out all of the available. What do we hear, folks? What's going on? Look up, look out, watch out! It's about to be a battle. Hold on to your seats.
Enemy air raid, Pearl Harbor, this is not a drill. Yes, we've taken you back to 7:55 a.m., December 7th, 1941. Imagine you were there that fateful morning. It started out as a peaceful Sunday morning over 80 years ago in Pearl Harbor at Hickam Field on the Hawaiian island of Oahu. Our entire naval base has awakened, with most of the fleet peacefully anchored within the confines of the harbor. Experience the roar of the engines and the sounds of the bombs as the Imperial Japanese Navy sent the first wave of 189 fighters and bombers from Japan's first air fleet, led by Japanese Captain Koshida. The unprovoked surprise attack was so complete that the coded success unknown Tora, Tora, Tora was sent back to the carrier task force before the first bomb fell. A single remote radar station had spotted the incoming raiders, but mistook them for a flight of B-17s due in from the mainland. The B-17s arrived, and like America herself, find themselves in a war that had not yet been declared. The attack was from the Japanese aircraft carriers Akagi, Akaga, Hiru, Soru, and the two new carriers, the Shokuku and the Suikuku. The plan was simple: destroy the Pacific Fleet. The raid lasts for a little over 2 gruesome hours. Yes, you had a front row seat in the Pacific Theater as the story of the bombing at Pearl Harbor unfolds in front of you. When the first bombs began to fall, pilots all over the island jump into action. At Wheeler Field, Lieutenant Philip Rasmussen woke to the sound of bombs, jumping out of bed, strapping on a .45 caliber pistol over his purple pajamas, and ran to a working Curtiss P-36 Hawk, just like the one you saw fly right in front of you. He was joined by 4 more P-36 pilots, Lewis Sanders, Harry Brown, Gordon Sterling, and Malcolm Mike Moore. They took off to engage the attacking Japanese and managed to shoot down a few of their Zeros, Bells, and Kates. The number of enemy aircraft was incredibly overwhelming. Meanwhile, elsewhere on the island, Kenneth Taylor and George Welch were just returning from an all-night dinner dance and poker party. These brave pilots, still in their former dress clothes, raced to a couple of P-40 Warhawks, got them filled and armed, and took off. They quickly found themselves in the middle of a world battle. These two pilots caught up with the Japanese close to Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field and engaged the Zeros, Bells, and Kates with rounds from their .30 caliber machine guns. However, they quickly ran out. Luckily, they were able to land at Wheeler Field, which is near the center of the island. They refueled and reloaded with .30 and .50 caliber ammo and took off once again to fight the Japanese. These two pilots were credited with downing a total of 6 Japanese warplanes before their own planes were disabled. Both pilots received a Distinguished Service Cross for their actions that infamous day. A total of 502 U.S. airplanes were on the ground at the beginning of the attack. Sadly, 188 were totally destroyed, 159 damaged, and 155 aircraft lay on the ground in various stages of disrepair. The first wave of 189 Japanese Zeros, Bells, and Kates hammered Hawaii for almost an hour. Then came the second wave of an additional 171 aircraft to continue the strafing, bombing, and dropping of torpedoes for yet another 70 minutes. That's a total of 360 enemy warplanes. As the attack proceeded at Pearl Harbor and Hickam Field, the devastating devastation was horrifying. On the eastern edge of Fort Island, in the center of the harbor, 9 battleships lay berth. The California, Oklahoma, West Virginia, Tennessee, Maryland, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Utah, and Arizona. Luckily at the time, our 3 Pacific aircraft carriers were out at sea. The first Japanese hit with K torpedo bombers. The initial wave of Kates took out 6 of our battleships: the Oklahoma, the California, the Nevada, West Virginia, and the Utah. These Kates were specially equipped with shallow-running torpedoes specifically designed for the attack on Pearl Harbor. You see, the shallow waters at Pearl Harbor would not allow for the normal deep-running torpedoes, which leaves no question that this was a thought-out plan and not a surprise attack. Then came the Bell dive bombers, armed with 1,700 pounds of armor-busting projectiles, originally made for 16-inch battleship guns, but were converted to aerial bombs. These planes dived down onto Arizona. Anti-aircraft fire barely miles away from Nevada on the first wave, but unfortunately the Arizona was not that lucky. A bomb stabbed the Arizona through her forward magazines and exploded, torching off more than 1 million pounds of gunpowder. Sailors on the Nevada watched in horror as the Arizona jumped 20 feet in the air and broke in two, forever entrapping 1,178 American servicemen in an underwater tomb. The ship sank in less than 3 minutes, and still today, she remains at the bottom of the harbor in a watery grave, crying black tears as a reminder to all of those who lost their lives in this day. At Marine Corps Air Station Ewell, Private First Class Melvin Thomas was on guard duty when 9 Zeros attacked the base. He stepped out of his guard shack, drew his kippa, 45-caliber pistol, and began firing on the enemy airplanes. Japanese pilot Yoshida saw Thompson firing back at them, and years later remembered Thompson's tenacity and fighting spirit, describing the lone Marine as the bravest American I've ever seen. All over the island, soldiers were bringing their weapons to bear and fight, anything they could get working: 45-caliber pistols or Springfield rifles. In some cases, soldiers were able to get 30 and 50-caliber outfed machine guns into action, bringing down numerous marauding Japanese Zeros, Bells, and Kates. Meanwhile, at Bellows Airfield and enough eastern coast of the island, more U.S. Army pilots were racing to their P-40s. Unfortunately, the Japanese Zeros appeared at the same time and started strafing runs. One P-40 pilot was killed as he stepped into the cockpit. 2 other P-40s were shot down just as they got off the ground. A flight of 12 B-17s coming from the mainland finally arrived and were immediately attacked by the Zeros. Unfortunately, in all the confusion, the B-17s were shot at by friend and foe. The frightened crew members landed wherever they could. One of